All right, we're live.
There you go.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks, Beth. I will call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And we've got all our visitors taken care of, Cindy?
No, not completely. We have, again, Mike O'Hara. He used to be the vice president of VAST, for those of you that don't know. Among many other hats he's worn for this organization and for his county and club for many years. We have Mike Miner, who's been coming to our meetings. And I think, Mike, you're with the Lunenburg Polar Bears. Dustin Turner, alternate director for Lamoille County. We've got Doug Todd from Rutland, and the Chittenden Dammers. And Ivor is here, alternate director. Oh, no, Amber's here.
It's me.
Alternate director's wife. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. I have been writing everyone down. So Jeff, I think you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Approval of the agenda. I understand we have something to add. We'll add that.
Yep, I would say you could add it in new business as item B. LVRT and other rail trail updates from Mike O'Hara.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, here comes Carol.
Anything else that we need to add?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I will ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended.
Grand Isle will make a motion.
Thank you.
Windsor County will second it.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye, wave, giggle, something.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Secretary's report. I believe there was copy in your packet. Any changes, comments, discussion?
Carmen's got her hand up.
Carmen? Yep, I just saw that. Go ahead, Carmen.
I just noticed under staff present and on the meeting minutes that Matt wasn't accounted for, and he was at that meeting.
Okay. Do you agree, Matt?
Yes, I was definitely there in spirit, certainly.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Carmen. Hearing nothing else, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the secretary's report as corrected.
Addison County.
Thank you, Louis. Good to hear from you.
Just
Grand
got in from
Isle will second.
snowmobiling. Just walked through the door.
Nice. And the second was,
Jeff
Grand
Porter,
Isle.
Grand Isle.
thank you, Jeff. All those in favor? Aye, wave, blink, something.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report, Patty.
Patty, can I share my screen to show them what you're reading off? Because I also emailed it to you guys, but let me get this on my screen real quick here. Sorry.
It's okay.
There I go. Share screen. Share. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So membership, again, all the numbers I'm going to be covering are through January 31st, so they don't cover any of the February data. It's just through January. So we are at membership, we are at 78% of our budget expectation. And then I compared it to January 2021, we were at 94%. 94%, and January 2022, we were at 100%. Our monthly activity for the month of January was 207K in new membership, and we're at 2.1 million so far this season. Income as of January 31st, we're at 76% of budget expectations. In January 2021, we were at 78%, and 2022, we're at 83%. We had 482,000 in income. Again, 207 of that was from membership, but there was also 250K that came in from grant money. And we are at 2.6 million for the season so far. Our expenses, we're at 42% of the budget expectations. In 2021, we were at 24%. In 2022, we were at 27%. So we saw that big, that jump last month as well. And a lot of that expense is primarily due to the new grooming rates and the startup percentages across all classes. So I did go back and looked at 2022. Our grooming budget line item last year was 1.3, and this year it's 1.5. And as of January last year, this time in grooming, we spent 237,000. And in grooming this year, this time we have 756,000. So you can see the big jump, about $500,000 in additional grooming money that we've paid out, thus why that 42% jump. Monthly activity was 146K, 74K of it was in trails expenses, and we paid our 2 scholarship recipients, so that's 3K in that money. And we have spent 1.2, almost 1.3 million so far this season in expenses. And I put together, you can see the comparison that Cindy's got there that shows January 21, 22, and 23. And I went further, and Cindy, you said you mailed this. I charted that stuff. So on the bottom part of that, you can actually see it goes budget, the monthly activity, and then the third chart on each, they're all set up exactly the same way. The third chart shows the membership compared to the 3 years, and you can see, and we're a little down, but the numbers aren't drastic numbers. It's just that the budget, we expected more in, but membership overall, you can see there is in pretty good shape, right? It's 2.3, 2.4, and 2.1. So not crazy off. And then income, same setup. And then expenses. And again, the bottom right, you can see the big gray box in the expense box. And that is primarily due to the $500,000 more we've spent in grooming due to the policy changes. And that's what I got, Jeff.
Thank you, Patty.
Patty, can I
And-
just say that I love this the way you report this, getting these little attachments with it all graphed out.
Oh, thank you, Carmen.
Thanks for taking the time to do it.
Thank you.
Does any, I can stop sharing unless there's more questions or comments, and I agree with Carmen, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm about a picture. Picture paints 1,000 words. It's just sometimes there's so much data. Even me, I'm like looking at all these numbers sometimes and just try to simplify it for you guys so you can read back to your counties.
Roger's got his hand up.
Hold Roger.
Yeah. Hey, I think this is probably kind of directed towards Matt, but is that $500,000 increase due to the larger startup payments, or have clubs actually been capturing more grooming? And I guess on top of that has anybody gone over their startup payment yet?
I can answer the first part of that, and then he can answer the second part of that. So the first part is grooming. And last year, this time was 237K we spent out in our startup payments. This year, including other things, right? But primarily 237. And this year we spent 756,000. So we jumped almost, about 500,000 just in our grooming startups. So the second half of going over and other things that Matt can answer that part. I don't know.
Yeah, you're correct, Patty. And yes, Roger, that $500,000 is basically due to the paying 35% up front, whereas you would have seen that same expense like on the back end at the end of the season last year. So that is primarily what that is. I did the mid-season payments, and I think there were 6 clubs that received a payment through week 8 that were beyond that 35%. but none of those payments were, the largest one might have been like $1,300. It was minimal. I think it was like $6,000 in payments. No, at that point, not many clubs had gone beyond the 35%. Obviously, with the new snow, we're going to start seeing more probably creep by that mark at this point.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank
Burns?
you.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on our income. How much of it that was grants?
Grant money was about 250K.
Okay, should we call that regular income? Or should that be a line item out? And do we get them? And regular income should be what's reoccurring usually.
Yeah, it's
We-
that, and that grant money just flows through, right, Cindy?
Yeah, and we have to budget for it, so it's in the trails budget, but it is income and then it gets expensed out. But it has to show up as income and then expenses.
Okay.
Mike Stewart has his hand up, Jeff.
Yep.
And Mike, you're on mute.
Hey, question for Matt. Matt, the six clubs that have gone over the 35%. Could you share with us who those are? Are they just the northern clubs? Is there any down in Rutland County?
I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see each other.
Yes, I can share that. Hang on one second. I just need to find it.
I just approved that this week, so I probably have those numbers too.
It's all right, we have time. It's not a lot on the agenda. Doesn't mean the meeting won't go long, but
Because in Matt's report, it shows that the total was 44,38,10 for those 6 clubs. Doesn't say who they were, but that's how much it was. 44,38,10.
I saw that. I'm just kind of curious.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I said it was like 6 something. The actual payment was, but there was one club that finally sent me their signed agreement contract. So there was a startup payment mixed in there, making it like 6,000, but the actual grooming payments beyond 35% were, yeah, the 40, whatever I had in my report. The clubs that received payment were Hardwick Snowflake Ridge Runners, Alberg Snow Springers, Corinth Snow Scramblers, Drift Dusters, Snow Bees, and Barnard Mountain Viewers.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the treasurer's report? I will entertain a motion in a second to approve.
Rutland County.
Thank you. And a second?
Grand Isle will second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Wave.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, no tabled items, no old business, new business. TMA report, Cindy.
okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. All right, so I asked Beth to build some new reports again. I've emailed these to you, but so far we have processed now 21,216 TMAs. This is just as of half an hour ago. We've sold probably about 400 in the past just 2 weeks alone. Then I asked her to build some reports that don't just show what we did versus last year, but also the year before. So you can see that there's total TMAs to date. Then there's also total TMAs sold to date. Not just, so these are the paid for types, not just the like volunteers and all that get lumped in. And then she ran the revenue. So again, you guys have all these reports now. And then the type of TMA this year versus last year. didn't ask her to do that for 3 years back, just wanted the totals for the 3 years. So this is for 2 years. And then the numbers for the total TMAs by type, and then the total TMAs by type that were sold. And then below are the reports that you're used to getting, which are the breakouts of the counties and the clubs. So all of those have been emailed to you so you can share them. And just gives you a picture of where we're at this year compared to last year and the year before. Again, I think it really has to do with snow. And that's why things are trickling in. There are people that are buying TMAs. There's not a lot of reports from law enforcement that they're finding a lot of people without them. What they are finding is a lot of people that don't have their stickers because they're waiting for the snow, and then they buy their TMA, so they've got their 10-day on their phone. So a lot of that is happening out there. I rode yesterday from Hardwick to St. Johnsbury and then back down through Cabot. And I did not see one illegal sled. And I stopped at Goodfellows for lunch, and I always take a peek. And as well as got stopped by the Hardwick police that did safety checks. So got one of our sleds safety checked. And so they're out there, and reports are good.
Any questions for Cindy?
Addison has her hand up.
Okay, Addison, go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick thing. I rode yesterday in Chittenden and Pittsfield, and 2 game wardens, a male and female, were set up over there in Pittsfield checking, and they said they're doing good. They haven't found too many sleds without anything. But I look at the report from the governor's council, and it said about 20 warnings. So I was just curious, what were the 20 warnings? It said they had 200 contacts, 16 tickets, and 20 warnings. So can anyone tell me what the 20 warnings were?
Yeah, Louis, I don't have their full reports yet. I guess we require that we have to have them by May. But
Okay.
Generally they are, proof of insurance, or not displaying, or they don't have their TMA, or they don't have, it's not registered. We have at the Governor's Council been encouraging them to ticket after January 1st. And so we have been really pushing for that more and more. I got a call today from somebody who was really angry because they have 72 hours to prove that they're moving their decals from the right side of the cowl to the left. So I think that there's some extreme things going on too, but I think we are getting better with it and encouraging them to ticket. We're also looking at the ticket fine amounts and plan
I see that too.
Yeah, so we plan to go and try to get that raised as well. So it's a lot more expensive to be ticketed for no TMA.
I'll have to say that yesterday, both the game wardens were checking headlights and brake lights, which I'd never seen before. That was kind of good, but I never, when they do the inspections, they're looking for the insurance card and the TMA and the registrations, but also the lights working right and the head and the tail lights working.
Well, there was a guy that got pulled over in Hardwick for a can, and he had 2 weeks to prove that he was going to replace his can with the original exhaust, or he would get mailed a ticket. And he was mailed over a $600 ticket this past week because he never proved that he got rid of that can. So they are getting better, and we have a Governor's Council meeting on Wednesday. But they will provide at the end of the season what they've done. I already have some reports from Hardwick, but we'll get reports, and we can share them with the board too. We don't just have to share them with Governor's Council.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Louis. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Mike, I guess you're up.
Well, first off, thanks for letting me in at the last minute. I'll start with what is I perceive to be real good news. There is some movement on a section of trail that leaves St. Johnsbury that connects to the LVRT through the St. Johnsbury bike path, leading up to Dalton, New Hampshire, going through both Caledonia and Essex County. It's the Twin State Rail Trail. Thanks to our legislators in our neck of the woods, they finally got the rail division to respond to us about who owned and what were the prospects of being able to convert that, what I would consider to be closed / abandoned trail into a rail trail. So the prospects are fairly good, but we're being told wait. Anybody that knows me, wait is not, that's a 4-letter word to me. That doesn't exist in my vocabulary. So we're going to try and push forward and see if we can't move this thing along a little bit before the superstructure decides it's going to fade into the Moose River and Connecticut River. So we're working on that. So that's the positive. Also on the positive side, there's been a lot of very favorable comments, social media wise, in Caledonia County, with the exception of Hardwick. On the Danville, St. J side, we've had really good rapport, a lot of very respectful snowmobilers, moving way to the right to the left, and making sure that they're waving and smiling. It's been a very positive experience over here in Danville and St. J. In Hardwick, we're starting to get a little, and this is the bad news part, we're getting some social media pushback about why there's motorized vehicles on the trail. And so my concern was, I'm not sure if we have a presence on the trail council that has been set up through the current management plan with VTrans. But we really need to curtail that kind of criticism. And I just want to find out what's going on with that, because social media is like a two-headed dragon. It can really get out of control.
I can answer some and Ken can answer some. So my feeling, Mike, is the reason that this is happening, and this isn't like the end all like answer to it, but is because in the past, when the rail trail is opened, like when we opened the Danville, St. Johnsbury section and the Morrisville to Cambridge section, it opened in the fall. And so there was a lot of non-motorized use. People got used to the trail. Then the snow fell and they saw our groomers out, and it was a lot more, a slower process of the trail opening. And this time the trail didn't really open until snow hit. And from what I'm hearing is that the people that have been complaining in Hardwick are kind of the way it was suggested to me were people that just complain a lot about some things, and not that it's not meaningful in that their complaints aren't real. But we did supply the Hardwick Club with some language last week, and they added a lot of their own language to answer back to Front Porch Forum and post some things on social media. So I think there is going to be a better understanding. Now, your other part, and I'm going to let Ken speak too, because while AOT has been doing a lot to build up this new position with Jackie Casino and get this whole thing started, what they didn't do initially was what we hoped they would do and encourage them to do, which was work with the communities right out of the gate. And so now they're only just starting to work with the community. So they are putting together committees for the towns and for the counties, and working with the communities through the regional planning commissions to help make this all better understandable by the people that use the trail. And then lastly, now, although I didn't leave Hardwick until about 10:45 yesterday morning, I did not encounter one other user of the trail except for snowmobiles from Hardwick all the way to St. Johnsbury. So I
Right.
think that there's a lot of things in play, and I do think that they're going to invite, I know they're going to invite community members, and that will include us. And, you know, there's been work done in Lamoille County, you know, into Franklin County that has brought up some issues where they're closing the trail, they're plowing some areas, they're doing some things, they're doing a lot of repairs because the state has like basically said, we're going to have this trail open in a year, which by my estimation was a little crazy anyway, to say that the whole thing would be open in 1 year. But, you know, it's the transition of them, you know, being the trail owners. They're the landowner now. So they basically say what's done, just like any large track or small track landowner that we have. So there's definitely been a learning curve, and there's been not a lot of communication, although Ken has been knocking at their door constantly to make sure that we're getting the communication. But there's been some frustration, you know, on the other side, the Jeffersonville side up to Franklin County too, regarding some different issues. And Ken, did you want to add to any of that?
No, I don't really have anything to add. I think they'll definitely have space for us on those councils. Mike, they're modeling it after the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail Council, which has local club members on it. So I think there'll be local clubs. Definitely Jackie communicates with me a lot, but she doesn't always even know what's going on the construction side. That construction just kind of does its own thing. And we all hear about it afterwards sometimes. So, but I think Cindy summed it up well.
Okay, and so I appreciate both of you and the input. The one recommendation I would make is to continue to make sure we have a presence on the rail trail. One of the avenues you might want to use is the Governor's Snowmobile Council to make sure they understand that we started this, and we're not going to get pushed aside because of public opinion. We're as much a user as anyone else is, and we wholeheartedly endorse all kinds of users to use the trail. And we also want everyone to be respectful about using the trail. So I just want to make sure that we're not, you know, kind of distancing ourselves out of a position at the committees. My understanding is the way that V-Trans has set up their management plan, there will be county trail councils for public input that will help drive the resolutions for user conflicts. Where it was once the steering committee, now they're going to have 3 separates. I don't know if that's actually taken place yet. I'm only hearing things through a Bill Mason. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's very good at reporting. He's done a really great job. I just want to make sure that we don't lose our presence there.
And I appreciate that, Mike. And we very much have told them that we are not letting this go. And also reminding them constantly that we are the only user that has paid to use this trail. And in fact, more than $3 million of snowmobile money. And so that is, I don't let that get lost on them. And they do need us on their committees. And the other thing is we pay a lot to maintain the trail in the wintertime. So it's not just the past money that we've paid, we actually maintain it for all these other users. So that is, yeah, absolutely what we will continue to do. And I think that, Ken, can you make sure that, Mike, do you want to be involved in this, the county committee that's, okay. So we'll make sure that they get that information so you're part of it. Now, for those of you that don't know, Mike was one of the ones who was on the original LVRT committee, very involved in the LVRT since the I don't know, before I started at VAST, which was only 9 years ago, but for a long time. So we'd love to have you continue in that capacity. And it's not, you know, sometimes it's hard because when you're coming up against AOT, right? I mean, even though we're vast and we have all these things, this is the Agency of Transportation and their budget way outweighs ours. And so the plan is to not get lost in all of their other projects.
Right. And again, from the positive side of things, I deal one-on-one with users that are skiing, fat biking, walking, and generally they have an excellent rapport with snowmobilers. So hats off to us. We've done our job and we're well perceived over here. But as many of you know, we had quite a issue with the Hardwick community for about 10 years. So that's kind of a hot spot that I want to make sure it doesn't flare up again.
Yep. Duly noted. Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Welcome anytime,
Nice.
Mike.
Nice to see you back.
Thanks, and hopefully I can have some more reports about the Twin State Rail Trail, which would connect LVRT directly to New Hampshire's trail system.
Which would then connect down to Rhode Island and make this whole trail system the longest rail trail in New England, if once we get these parts connected.
Maybe even Maine.
So thanks
So,
for your
yeah.
help.
There's some really great things happening. The Rails to Trails Council, a national organization, is working with this project. So their help and their guidance is very, very valued. Okay, and so you guys get on to your regular business and I'll just kind of sit here and listen.
Oh, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it
But,
again.
yeah, not a problem.
Mike.
And just to add, I did have a chance to ride that section of rail trail this weekend myself through Hardwick. I did notice that it does have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on it, that anybody that's listening can keep that in mind as they're cruising through town there too. So, but
Yeah, I think
definitely a nice addition to our trail system for sure.
Right.
Okay, Trails Administrator, ED report, and the LVRT report. Any questions for Cindy, Matt, or Ken? Roger?
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice Matt's frustration with the GPS equipment and system and stuff. I'm just looking to get some verbal feedback from him. We're having some issues with one of our cats' GPS. It's allegedly transmitting, but for some reason the software is not recognizing it, so we can't gather the data and it's not showing on the VAST map. Alpine have not been the greatest trying to get a speedy fix for this. So I'm curious to see what the plan is moving forward. Or, I mean, we're obviously logging manually, so I'm not too concerned about it, other than it's just going to cause me more work to have to add all this up again. But I think we got accustomed to the GPS and how nice they were and handy they were. I'm just curious to hear what Matt has to say.
Yeah, we're done with that program. I've had enough with George and nothing working, and I'm just telling everyone at this point. I think since Friday, I've had 4 people reach out to me with GPS issues. It's just constant, and there's never a solid fix. Like, it might fix it for a week, but it's not. Then it stops working again, and yeah, they're just not reliable at all. And a few problems I understand. Like, we're gonna have some. Not everything is going to be perfect every week. You might have a few here, like a handful of problems I would expect, but when it's 4 or 5 every week and different ones, it just gets daunting. And like you said, it's causing the clubs more work, myself more work, because you're looking at the GPS, it's not working. You're going back and forth with me or George or both. I'm comparing log sheets to what the GPS says and trying to manually update stuff, and it just gets really confusing. It's making more work for everyone, and we're paying money to provide this service, but really it's not reliable and it's not really a great service. So I don't know what we're going to do moving forward. I'm trying to look at a couple different options. I think the conclusion I've drawn in my head is we need to move away from anything that deals with or relies on cellular service. I think we need to go something that relies solely on GPS. But Those are more expensive and they're limited, but some of the surrounding states are using Atlas tracks, and that we've talked with them before. So that is, I'll say, sort of where I'm leaning, but there's a lot to figure out to actually get there so that it will work for us. But yeah, I feel your frustration. These things are just, I don't know. They work 1 minute and then they don't, and then they work again. They miss part of a run. I don't know. We solved the power issues, which was like the first year or two, we had a lot of power issues because they were installed poorly. A lot of those have been addressed now. Now it's like hardware, software issues, or with scripts or cellular service issues, is stuff that's out of our control. And like I said, it's just frustrating when it's not working. So,
Doug?
Thanks.
Yeah, I just had a question for Matt regarding his report there at the bottom of it. The third bullet comment where it said it's likely that many of the clubs who reached out about the funding for the $750,000 from the state said will not be eligible to receive it and will be forced to utilize the normal vast equipment grant and aid program. I was just wondering, Matt, is there a reason that you see why that wouldn't work? That wouldn't fit that category, or the request you have?
I can answer it.
okay, go ahead.
So we're still waiting to meet with the state. We were supposed to meet last week. But when we looked into the intention of the language, the intention, we are pretty positive, is going to be exactly what the language was, that it needs to be a club that is working with a neighboring club to groom 60 miles or more of trail. And I think they're going to stick us on that. And so that's why he's warning, because it was, we were asked to look at the intention of the language and whether it was like, well, if we're working together, we're holding fundraisers, is that working together? We don't think that that's what the intention of the language was. And so we'll know more, but he's just warning that it might come down to that specific language, which was what was in the bill, that it's 60 miles of trail with a club that is working with a neighboring club to groom 60 miles of trail. So that's what he means by that. Was that right, Matt?
That's correct. That's what I meant by what I put in my report. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So hopefully we'll know more. We were supposed to meet with V-Trans last week, and the gentleman that is heading this up, that's meeting with us, he's also a snowmobiler. His father's very involved in one of the clubs. I understand snowmobiling. He was called in to testify last week in the State House, and so I had to cancel at the last minute. So we're hoping to meet next week.
Cindy and Jeff Alpin, I just had a question if I could on that subject.
Stan had his hand up first, but
okay.
I'd stand.
Not that I run the meeting, but
the 60 miles, is that defined as corridor only, or is it 60 miles of total trail?
it just says 60 miles of trail.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. I'm happy to resend that out, what the language in the bill stated last year, if you guys want.
My question was just like, how often does that have to happen where the club reaches out, or, is it just like mutual aid when there's trouble with the groomer, or is it continuous two clubs sharing that 60 miles?
I think the idea was to use the funding during the same course of time that when we do other equipment grants. So the same season that we do other equipment grants, this would be that those clubs that were eligible for that funding would be able to access that funding, which would open up our other usual equipment funding to more clubs. And so we would be able to service more clubs. So while the 60 miles was nothing that we asked for, because we know that there's only so many clubs that groom 60 miles or more, even with, when they combine it with their neighbors, that was the idea.
Well, what I'm thinking, Northfield comes over and assists us when either we get a lot of snow with the Ridge Runners, or when we're down having trouble, they do quite a bit. Now, obviously, they wouldn't have the 60 miles on their own, but with assisting us on a majority of the time, not all the time, would they be eligible? Kind of, I guess, I think that's where my question was heading.
Yeah, I think we're hopeful that that would be one of the exceptions that we will be able to clarify with them, because we have many other clubs that do that a groomer will be down. And so their neighbors are grooming for them, or they have some sort of agreement or something like that, I think is what they're going to lean towards. But again, we really won't know until we meet with them. Carmen's got
And
her hand up.
Matt just put in the chat that mutual aid is part of everybody's contract. Go ahead, Carmen.
First of all, Cindy, I can't locate that email, so I hate to ask you, but could you send it again?
The one with the bill language from last year?
Yes.
Yep, I'm happy to send. I'll just send it to everybody so you guys all have it. You just got to go find it, but
I'm sorry, that's what I was looking for and I couldn't find it. My question wasn't about that. My question actually was for Ken. I'm going to assume you've said that you've had some conversations with Jackie, but there's nothing kind of been set in stone kind of regarding a meeting with them.
Yes, correct. We're working on maybe 2 different meetings, one about the Fisher Bridge, and then hopefully one just about communication and in general.
Okay. So I'm assuming, but we know what they say about assuming, that they're probably going to want that rubber matting down for next season, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I was hoping, and I haven't quite given up yet, to keep that possibility open even for this year. I've not heard any update on the washout in Wolcott. If they finish that and the only thing keeping the trail closed is the rubber matting, that would be a real shame. But that might be what it comes to.
Well, that would be pretty sad. Okay, I just thought that I would ask because I hadn't seen any more emails, so I just kind of, and I saw it in your report, so I just kind of wanted to inquire because I know there are people in Lamoille County that kind of, you know, want to be a part of that. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's see. Committee reports. Anything on the AARG, Cindy?
no,
Okay.
no updates.
Jeff,
Northeast.
Before you go on, I have my hand up. But before you go on, I have a question about that, the insurance policy. We have one of our clubs that's doing a club event this weekend. It's a vintage show on the Bethel Ball Field. It's from 9 to 2. And then at the end of the event, they have approximately a 3.5 mile ride on the Vast Trail out and back. 3.5 out and 3.5 back. Is this covered under any of the Vast insurance that we have? Does anybody know? Or
Yeah, I mean, their liability insurance is covered. I think I sent Patty an email about this earlier, Doug. All I need is the landowner's name, and then we add them as additionally insured. So I just need the club name and the landowner's name. And then they're covered under the liability insurance for the event that the town is. It's similar to what we had before. As far as riding out on the trail and coming back, they should have their own insured snowmobiles because at that point they're on our trail system.
Yeah.
And as long as they're as vintage sleds or antique sleds. But
okay, thank you.
Doug, I just sent you the email that Cindy sent, and Alex is on that email, so he knows what he needs to do.
Okay, thanks.
Roger, to answer your question, it's 60 miles or more.
Okay. Northeast chapter in USA. I guess I'm taking this one. I don't see Pat's on. Bunch of us had the opportunity to go to Maine and partake in the Northeast chapter spring ride and meeting. Ivor, Doug, who else was up there? Gordon, Mark Reeves,
Mike Burns.
Mike Burns. So we got in, I got in a little over 400 miles. Some of those guys went up early and got, what'd you guys end up with? Like 1,000 miles, Ivor?
1,400.
There you go.
Thanks to Mike Burns leading us.
Yeah, there you go. But it was a great time. We had, at one time we had 27 of us in the group riding. One day we broke into 2 groups of 18. Covered, we were based out of Limestone, Maine, which is just outside of Caribou. So, and if anybody's interested in finding the snow, there you go. It's about an 8-hour drive from Burlington, but there is snow, as Jim can attest. But the meetings were good. We did a Wednesday evening meeting and a Thursday evening meeting. Representatives from New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. Let's see. We had New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Isle. I think that was it. Actually there. But Maine did a great job of hosting, and New York has offered to host next year's meeting. It'll be based out of Malone. And the date on that is to be confirmed. Anything any of you guys want to add that were there?
Everybody that was there was very friendly. It was an amazing opportunity and a place to be at.
I think Maine hospitality rivals Vermont hospitality, but we rival on a lot of different things. Let's see. Vermont Trails Conservancy. Jim, anything?
We got a few irons in the fire. We're trying to confirm some things and move forward. We'll just keep plugging away.
Thank you. Law enforcement. Cindy?
Nothing new. I reported a little earlier on about Hardwick and stuff like that, but nothing else new. We have Governor's Council meeting on Wednesday.
Okay. That's 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
Same Zoom channel as you're on right now.
To nominating.
Just a reminder, this Wednesday, 2 more days, is the scholarship application deadlines. Mandy also posted something on the VAST page, so on Facebook, so you could share that. And the let's see, I just want to remind folks about the Trailblazer nominations. Those are for folks volunteering for 25 years or more. Everybody that's nominated that, does the volunteering for 25 years or more receives recognition for that. So it's not like, that they're picked out of a group. Everyone submitted for those volunteers with those years of service do get some sort of recognition. So, and that is also a prerequisite to receiving the Founders Award. So Founders Awards are pulled from the prior Trailblazer recipients. So just to keep that in mind for your clubs. And there's no deadline on that, but I know if you want to be presented at the annual meeting, just make sure you note that when you do submit it in. And that's all I have for that right now.
Thank you, Patty.
Yep.
Bylaws and policy is Mark. Anything you're aware of, Cindy?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I just have one
Um,
question regarding, Jeff, when will the board be voting on the $25 payments to the clubs for the promotional weekend? You know, does anybody know?
You guys decided to do it at the end of the season. So probably
Okay.
May.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Actually, as long as we're talking about that, I'm a little confused. I thought the agreement was that the $25 went to the club that they joined. So I'm not
That's
sure
what I
what there
thought.
is to vote on.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think it was discussed, but then everybody just decided to wait to see how it was going to sugar off was what the discussion was.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they definitely picked a club. So I don't see an issue, but I don't think that was the actual vote.
Okay. I'll have to revisit the
No, because
minutes, I guess.
there was talk about going to counties as well, to like sending it to the counties, and I agree. I don't think that there was any sort of anything we settled on because everybody was, just kind of in a rush to get out of there.
Yeah, I agree with Roger. I don't know about the rush part, but I do agree with the other part that it was kind of like, well, let's just see how it sugars off, because you could have somebody join one club, but they're riding all over the county. And is that fair? And nobody actually settled on anything. So you guys decided to do it when the season ended.
Isn't that documented somewhere though?
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
Yeah, so you could go back and look at the minutes and that would answer that question. Sorry.
Yes, it will. Let's see. Annual meeting. Jeff, any news? Any updates?
At this point, we're just kind of at a status quo. I would like to say probably by the May meeting, we'll probably have more information on. We just need to really at the county level. Our county meeting in January was rather unproductive with the lack of show because everybody was out of town. I was out of town. Mark was out of town. So not a whole lot was talked about at January's meeting. Matter of fact, we didn't even have a quorum to make any decisions. So, we are kind of, mirroring Essex last year. The place is Kenyon's. I've spoke with most of the large vendors. I would, every time we say this, I'd like to, have the clubs reach out to us if they're interested in having a booth or setting up a table for their clubs down there. So we have a pretty good count of what, people want to do or what clubs want to set up. And from there, we'll just get organized. We have, I believe we have plenty of room for, it's not a limited amount of room. I don't think, I can't see it being a problem if more clubs want to have, tables or tents set up. So I don't think that'll be an issue.
Thank you. Nothing for the executive committee. We covered financials. Patty, anything do you want to touch on? Okay. Long range planning is Mark. Resource committee is dormant. Personnel, Julianne.
Nothing too much. Bruce and I have been communicating back and forth, but we haven't scheduled a meeting yet.
Personnel. Trails. Matt, anything on trails? Anything coming up for another meeting?
I'll talk to Brian about it, but we haven't talked too much about it. It might just be the special May meeting at this point. I'm not sure. But if we have some movement on like a different GPS type system for the groomers, we might need to talk that over too. So sort of up in the air, but.
Thank you. Safety, Stan.
Yeah, we had kind of focused all of our energy on that ride, and that didn't go off. And I think I reported last month. I think we've had the meetings are kind of running into one another, but we did that thing at the Yankee Valley Sportsman show. But at this point, we're waiting for the next Vast magazine to go out with that request to our membership for ideas about possible either events or tasks that we can take on. Jenna Reed, who's a committee member, had some ideas that she sent to me after our last meeting and to Cindy. So we'll start investigating that. She was talking about maybe some safety videos. So we'll look into that. And we actually are not going to hold a meeting this month. Some conflicts plus not really anything to focus on. So we'll reconvene in April.
Okay, thank you. And Governor's Council. Meeting tomorrow or meeting on Wednesday?
Meeting on Wednesday. Yep.
Report was in the packet.
Mhm.
Carmen, question.
My question is, in the governor's council report, under the law enforcement committee, and this was brought up before, but I kind of wanted to wait because this is where I kind of felt it needed to be discussed. But it's regarding the clarifications on the fines. Who is, I know that it says that the Judiciary Department is kind of in charge of that, but do we have kind of any leverage or any say to kind of throw some like numbers out there?
Yeah. So they meet in August. So the discussion is to put together a letter to them regarding why we want some increases in certain areas. So that is in the plan.
Okay. And then I have another question, and I don't know if anybody can actually answer this. On this Judicial Bureau of Waiver Penalties, under the snowmobile thing, there is one that says, and I'm very confused because I would like somebody to explain it to me, and maybe I'm just not wrapping my head around it, but it's CV 23-3206B23, operation of a snowmobile in open season. And it's a $622 fine. Does anybody know what that like means? Because when I think of open season, that's our
hunting.
normal season.
No, that's hunting season. So that's why we're not allowed to ride before December 15th every year, because that's the last possible day of muzzleloader. So that's what they mean by opening season is hunting.
Okay. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It was a good question. I think the thing is that they need to work better on their explanation, because we know what opening season means, but in general for Vermonters, it's hunting. But when we're thinking snowmobiling, we're not actually thinking about that. But that's why that if you operate a snowmobile before that, that's how big the fine could be.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So one of the issues that I had with the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail Council is they kept telling us the state says you can snowmobile on the 15th of December. And it's like, no, it doesn't open until the 16th. So,
That's right.
and that's state law. It's not like we have any jurisdiction over that.
That's
So
right.
to her point, there is some miscommunication and some misinformation going on out there.
Well, it's because it's muzzleloader season does not always, the last day of hunting does not always end on December 15th. Some years it ends on the 13th and all that, but Mike's right that it's in state statute. Our season does not open until December 16th, because that's the last possible day for hunting, depending on what calendar year.
Right.
Jeff Halpin, question.
Yeah, this is, I wanted to bring this up more. I guess it fits into the governor council also, but safety would stand. Cindy, how many counties actually have the commercial TMA sales that, so for like, obviously here in Washington County, we have the one up in Little River for the snowmobiling Vermont. Is there other counties that are dealing with that also?
Yeah, there's not many. So Snowmobile Vermont has locations in Rutland County. So they're in not just Snowmobile Vermont, but the commercial operators are mostly in Rutland County and Bennington County. I think there's some in Windsor County and
Yeah.
Lamoille and Washington County.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
two
my,
in,
my,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And Caledonia County also. Yeah.
my question really works around, we've had a couple here in Washington County accidents, with the commercial snowmobiles here in Washington County in the Little River area. And I'm getting quite a bit of feedback from people concerned that, and I think I know the answer to this, but I guess my question is, who is regulating when they shouldn't be running? Because in my mind, they're paying for commercial TMA. They're a member of VAST. So they're riding on our trails, yet they're grooming their own trails. And what's happening is, I think that maybe they're stretching when they should be open and when they're not open. And I don't know that for a fact. I didn't go up and look at conditions prior to or after any of these situations. But my question, I guess, is there a possibility that, we're pushing the envelope and riding too poor of a trail system, allowing to push to try to, obviously it's financial for them. Do you follow me on that, Cindy?
Yep. So they're regulated by the state. There's statutes that surround commercial operation. They have to have their own insurance. It's basically a business. Then they have an agreement with us to utilize our trail system, and they have an agreement with the local club. And if the local club is grooming, now in this instance, the ones in Little River own their own groomer. We don't actually, we share those trails, but they groom them for us. But as far as their insurance and all that, it's all they're their own entity, their own business. They pay more for commercial operation, and a lot of times, the clubs or the operators, it's operator error. Or it can be conditions as well, but it is all governed by state statute, state police. They have to have training, all their operators, all of their guides have to have certified training and all of that too. We don't do it. State police and Fish and Wildlife do.
Just seems to be an awful lot of pointing fingers towards VAST on people that I've spoken with that have come to me, that the trail shouldn't be open. And so I wanted to kind of bring that to our attention here at the board that, I think we as VAST maybe need to keep a little closer eye on poor conditions in that situation, because maybe they're incentivized to run a little bit on not so safe trails to try to profit on a year like this year. Hopefully it changes here and we can't say it's a year like last year, but I just feel like maybe they're incentivized to run a little bit when most of us wouldn't take our sleds out.
Yeah, I think it's a business. So it's just like another business using, if a landowner opens up their trails to other users, this is state property that you're talking about in the Little River area. So they have landowner in agreements with the state of Vermont. And they have to run by our parameters as far as the season, but it's also up to them as the ones that are grooming those trails and the agreements that they have with landowners. So I think it's I understand what you're saying, but it's not, we are not liable because we just have an open and a closed season and they are maintaining their own trails. And again, they have agreements with the landowner, which is the state of Vermont. And often, I do, and that's not an excuse, but you do see operator instances when people rent sleds because they're not familiar with the terrain and, with riding. But I don't know how much more we could do, Jeff, I guess is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah, I just wanted your opinion on where it falls. Does it fall more, on the local club? In that case, it'd be the Roamers to make that call, or is it actually up to more outside of VAST? Is it up to the actual commercial operator? So
it's up to the landowner and the club. So if the club is not maintaining that trail, that's the thing. The Roamers are not grooming that trail. Where this operation in Stowe is leaving from, these guys, Snowmobile Vermont owns their own groomer. They're grooming that trail. So you're right in the sense that if it was another organization, like let's say Woodford, Woodford has commercial as well. They have agreements with the club and the commercial operator. And then it's up to the club when those trails are open. But the roamers are not actually grooming that trail.
The regulations call though for a minimum of 4 inches of snow. So if conditions got down to where you didn't have 4 inches of snow, regardless of the agreement, that would shut it down, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's more, again, ice is what he's getting at. It's not rocks. They're not riding over rocks and things like that. There's snow. But I think that there's some tricky terrain, and they're new riders. And these sleds are all 2-ups, so they're heavier. And I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just saying that that's just, the state police goes and investigates every accident. There is, in the past few years, there's been about 2 every year in Stowe. And it's not the Green Mountain Roamers that groom the trail.
Understood. I mean, that's kind of what I figured would be the answer. I just wasn't sure if Vass was able to take more of a stance on it, I guess. And they may be, because they are making money from it, maybe not the ones to make the decision on whether the trail should be open or closed. That's all. That was my question.
I think it would open us up for more liability, to be honest with you. Because their agreement is with the landowner and the operator of the groomer.
Well, there is a gray area, or I don't know exactly how it's spelled out, but the requirement of having a safety class and safety certificate. Somehow they're exempt from that. They do a 10 or 15-minute video and then a hands-on 2-minute kind of a review. Well, here's the throttle, here's the brake, ride right, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute video, and it's more, I mean, I've gone, maybe they just did it longer because I was there. I don't know. But it was like a 20-minute video, and then more of a, 10 minutes, this is how you do it. And then you ride around the field a few times before you actually go on the trail.
That's there because I've seen it at another place, and there's nothing, it's nowhere near that.
Well, then that's something the governor's council should talk about with law enforcement and look at statute changes or something. But at this point, it's their liability.
Anything else for this evening? Nothing? Wow. I will then entertain a motion to adjourn.
Windsor County, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Washington County, a second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to adjourning? Nah, I didn't think so. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.